entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings, a mini version for you now that we know what the first foursome pairings are going to be for the Ryder Cup. And remember, it begins at 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, so Friday morning or very late on Thursday night if you're on the West Coast. So make sure that you get your entries into the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. The link is down in the description. There's still 600 spots as of Thursday afternoon. We need to fill those, or they're not going to give me any more room in terms of having larger listeners leagues. So please go fill that right now. Probably easier to construct your teams now that you know what the first round pairings at least are going to be. We'll walk through some of the DraftKings stuff in a little bit, but I did want to get to what those pairings are going to be. You missed the entire breakdown. It's easy. Hit the pod feed, go back and watch me, Cam, and Jeff shoot the shit about this. But what I want to talk about right now are the pairings for right now. We're taking a look here. The first group out is going to be Scotty and Burns, as predicted, playing together, facing off against Hatton and Rahm, which when we said on the Monday show, was exactly what we thought. It sucks that these two are playing each other because I bet on Hatton to be the top Euro. So that's good news. I guess some of these correlate for me a little bit because I also backed Scheffler to score no points in the set 100-1. I don't expect that one to win. I just thought it was kind of funny. But I thought that if Burns and Scheffler lost, you'll probably see more of Scheffler, obviously, but then Burns goes the other way. I don't think Hatton's really at risk of, especially if it's a close match, of not playing a ton. Obviously, I think that he's up next after Vic, Rory, and Rahm in terms of the Euro rotation. And if he's just going to be Rahm's partner on day one, that might filter out forward again if they win. Even if they lose, they still might get paired up again at some point. But with Burns, I have him as top wild card right now in terms of the USA team. And the fact that he's playing with Scheffler, if they go hog, then it's not bad. Even to bet Burns, Burns, even if they do win, he'll probably get paired up again with Scheffler in alternate shot on Saturday. But in terms of the four ball or the foursome, now I can't even get them straight. The first one is alternate shot, whatever the one that's not alternate shot is. Scheffler will probably go with Brooks, although Brooks and Wyndham Clark now potentially are seeming to be a team, because when we take a look at these foursomes again, in the groupings, we got Homo with Harman. They're taking on Vic and Ludwig. Ricky and Morikawa are taking on Straka and Lowry. Cantlay and Xander are facing Rory and Tommy. Rory and Tommy are a pretty nice team coming out. So they put big guns up against the big guns. The number one player in the world are taking on Rahm and Hatton. That's huge. Vic and Ludwig, you're pairing up. Vic's probably the hottest player in the world right now. So put him with the young up and comer who can really bomb it. And it seems, I don't want to say that. Brian Harman's the number 9 player in the world, but this seems sort of like a sacrificial lamb type one. We take a look at the day one odds over at DraftKings Sportsbook. You can see that they're pretty substantial underdogs. They're the biggest underdogs on the board. Vic and Aberg are minus 115 favorites, with Homa and Harman at plus 130. Now, they're not huge underdogs by any means. And an alternate shot, that's probably the best format for Brian Harman to go out in. So what I think happens here, and with Xander and Cantlay taking on Rory and Fleetwood, is that Scheffler probably gets another go in the afternoon, or maybe him and Burns are now a package deal and they end up sitting. I think Xander and Cantlay will continue to play. And then you just have Spieth and Thomas, who aren't playing in the morning session. I don't think that anyone saw that coming, but it's almost pretty clear that they're going to go out. It's kind of interesting on the European side not to see Justin Rose, who's 7-2 in alternate shot and either 500 or below in any other format in the Ryder Cup. So it's strange that Straka is out there and Justin Rose is not, but I still like Justin Rose, I suppose. I like him less now as a DraftKings play than I did before everything was announced, mainly because I thought he'd be an alternate shot and I thought he would do well in alternate shot. But at least on day one, that's simply not going to be the case. So I actually think DraftKings-wise that Spieth and Thomas actually they'll lose ownership if people are paying attention. Frankly, people don't seem to be too concerned about DraftKings this week as it pertains to the Ryder Cup. They're not thinking in those terms. But I could still see a scenario where Spieth and Thomas end up getting 4 sessions in, and this is the one that they sit. Although it's on the table, they play once on Friday, once on Saturday, then they go out in singles, which would be surprising, I think, to a lot of people coming into the week, but that's the way that it's shaping up right now. What I do think is going to happen, like you see, you don't see Brooks or Wyndham Clark right now. I'm assuming that they're going to play together as the other ones, and then you might end up with I could see Homa and Morikawa playing together in the next session. So DraftKings wise, these might be the two, or even if we take a look at who the top US scorer is going to be in this scenario. Where are we at here? DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's click around a little bit. Golfer props, team props, USA props, high European USA score. You got Colin Morikawa at plus 750, Homa at plus 800 right now. I mean, Burns is now in at 12-1. If Ricky starts playing well, I mean, I bet Spieth at 11-1. That was a terrible bet, but sometimes if he had been playing in the first session, he would have been down to where Morikawa and Homa are, so I thought I was getting value. I just turned out to be wrong. This stuff happens to me all the time, being wrong. But with Homa and Morikawa, if they end up getting paired up again in the afternoon, like they're on the fast track to end up getting the most chances to score points playing in the most sessions. Now, obviously, they're going to have to win, but if you're not winning, you're not going to be the top overall point scorer anyway. Or if Burns plays so well that he and Scheffler keep going out, now we're at a situation where at 12-1, that's not a bad situation to be in. And for top captain's pick, Burns is down to plus 450. I still don't mind that. Or if Ricky plays well enough, Spieth is now last in this market at plus 550. I do think that he'll end up playing with Justin Thomas the entire time, but that's really interesting how much just one thing can flip for everybody. So that's sort of the American side. If I had to guess, you'll see Xander and Cantlay go out again in the afternoon. And then I think that the other pairing will be either Scheffler and Homa or Scheffler and Morikawa, unless they just run it back with Sam Burns. I don't anticipate any of the Americans not playing on day one, although that's most definitely on the table. That could happen with the European side when we look at it, because, like I said, Rahm, Hovland, and Rory are all basically locked into 5 matches, I think, unless one of them gets tired or they just don't have it going on. So that leaves, like, if Ludwig doesn't play well, I think all of a sudden you'll see Højgaard out with Victor. I'm surprised Tommy's out with Rory, but if that just ends up becoming a super team, that's where it's going. I don't think we'll see Lowry or Straka in the afternoon session on day one. That seems like a perfect Fitz and Rose pairing, so probably no Bobby Mack. We might not get any Højgaard, which is disappointing to me because, as you can see, I ended up betting Højgaard as top Euro wild card. The hope being on that one was maybe he would sneak in with Rory earlier on, but this bet requires Aberg to falter a little bit because he's such a big favorite in the market that if Aberg falters in this morning session with Victor Hovland, I do anticipate Højgaard getting his spot over Bobby Mack in terms of next man up. Then all of a sudden, if he can win a match, he probably sticks on the course. So that's sort of the rationale behind the Højgaard pick, although it's most definitely not safe, but it's also plus 850 in a field of 6 people. And he's by far, he's probably an even better price right now. We go take a look at it. We can probably find, where's the European props or European rookie? Yeah, you can get a pretty good plus 450 just as rookie overall. And then as captain's pick, he's all the way down to 9-1. So you get an extra 50 cents on your dollar with that one if that's the way that you want to go on it. So that's really what it's shaping up to be in terms of the betting market. There's nothing really substantially changed from what we saw a little bit earlier on, but I'm just very curious to see how this is going to go. I still like Hatton as the top point scorer for Europe. That was on the card. That came in at 8-1. Currently at DraftKings Sportsbook, you can see, what are we at here? Top point score. Hatton is coming at 7-1. So a slightly better number. You got to take your small little victories wherever you can get them. But just because someone isn't playing in the first one, for overall point score, that's tough because you do want to maximize those sessions. But for either rookie or captain's pick, those guys I do think are going to be somewhat interchangeable once it gets down to it. And I do think that there is, now I want to say significant value, but if this is just the one session that Spieth and Thomas take off, all of a sudden they play the rest of the 4 matches. We know that they're a good team. They're a proven team. And this course might set up really well for what they do best in terms of scrambling or just really hot iron play. And if the greens are difficult to hit, we know both of them can get it up and down. That as an alternate shot pairing, I'm surprised not to see them. However, they might get run out tomorrow in an alternate shot session. Or maybe Ricky plays really well and takes one of their spots and they end up playing together. There's so much prognostication that goes into it and so many different permutations that it's really tough to figure out. But just looking at it right now, Xander and Cantlay have to be the overwhelming favorites to play the most sessions for the Americans. After that, I would say it's probably Scheffler, Homa, and Morikawa, because if they just continue to play well, they'll continue to be out there. Let's jump over to DraftKings. Now, once again, the Listeners League is open. You can go play in that right now. Would recommend that you do. There's still 650 spots left or 600 spots left, whatever it might be. I already have my 3 entries in, so it's actually a really good tournament as well. The full round special, the 18 max entry, $10. It's one of the better ones. We're dealing with the captain spot this week on DraftKings, so that player is going to score more points. That's where you really want to load up. So let's see if we can finagle what we should be doing here. Now, I think that if you want to maximize your points, Rory, Rahm, Hovland, one of those 3 make the best captains. You could say Hatton is your captain as well, if you believe, like I do, that he's either going to play with Rahm the entire time, or he might even get split out with Lowry or Fleetwood, whatever it might be, but he almost has to win his first match in order to continue to be out there. He's the loosest of those 4. The other 3 are basically locked in, so you might just want to go with them. We did see Cantlay and Xander not play all the matches at the President's Cup, but you'd have to think that with them going out together early in alternate shot, they've been so successful as a team together that Xander as your captain is the most likely scenario in this spot because he's just the cheapest of it. Then you have 7,500 left as your remaining. So you probably want to pair him with Cantlay to get those double points on the go, because whatever points Xander scores, Cantlay will score and vice versa. So trying to put the right pairings together is a potential way to go in this situation. You could go with Rahm and Hatton, although Scheffler and Burns work out pretty well too, just because Burns is so cheap. So now we're down to 6,800 for the players. So Lowry's playing in the first session. You wouldn't anticipate him going. I think it's probably, unless you're playing Hovland, I think it's super sharp just to fade Aberg in this spot, because I think that he is very clearly the best value on the board. You could even make Aberg your captain and just pray he plays with Vic the entire time and really be able to jam in all of the studs. But now we get into a situation where we see Harman playing in the first one. That's pretty good. Do you actually want to play anyone that is not playing in the first session? Because with this, you can get some Spieth points on the go. I think Spieth is more likely to continue to play. If Spieth and Thomas end up losing, once we get to Saturday, I think it's more likely that Spieth continues to play over Justin Thomas. Like if Justin Thomas plays poorly, it just feels like he's going to the bench immediately. Or you could do something and take Spieth out and say, hey, I'm going to target the later sessions, or just take Ricky Fowler and try to take Justin Thomas, or even pair him with Aberg. Like all that stuff makes sense. But I think the Brooks and Wyndham Clark pairing, you'll probably get 3 sessions from Wyndham Clark. I'll probably be playing with Brooks in a lot of those. Or you just go down to the bottom and say, hey, if Lowry wins his first match, Lowry's a great player. If he's got it going on, the Euros are just going to ride him out there over and over. Whereas someone like Justin Rose is sitting in the first match. At least you know that the potential for 5 matches is there from Lowry. But you're really realistically looking at 4 matches from your guys once you get down to this level. Straka is also a potential play, as is Harman. I don't like them as much in this scenario, but so I'll just take Lowry in this spot, and maybe we can pair him up with someone he might be playing with. This still leaves you with room for Hatton in this lineup. So at least $500 on the table. I would not be concerned whatsoever with anything in terms of leaving money on the table. So that's one way that you can structure your lineup to get teams in there of Scheffler and Burns, Cantlay and Schauffele, and then you get 2 guys that are playing in the first session. You get Hatton scoring the Rahm points at a cheaper price, and then you just hope that Lowry with Straka can end up winning, and that fuels either Hatton and Lowry together, or Lowry just to play more sessions, and then Hatton can stick around with Rahm. So you're trying to maximize your points with double points here, and a captain that you think is going to go out there a ton, and then try to flip it the other way. Let's try to do one with Hatton as a captain. Actually, let's just do one with Rahm as a captain, because it feels like Rory, let's do Rory and Fleetwood. Captain Rory, Captain Fleetwood. So let's do Captain Fleetwood to start, because along with Hatton, I think that Fleetwood and Hatton have about the same odds of playing the maximum amount of matches. Now, they're out together. They're also playing Xander and Cantlay in the first session, so you probably want to fade that a little bit. Now you could go overload with the European side and say I want Hovland and Aberg as well, and then try to figure out the rest. Let's see what that leaves us with in terms of money. So at 8,800, you're putting in Victor Hovland, then you have Aberg. I think this is going to be a very popular build, by the way. Just pointing that out there. Then you can probably play Sam Burns. chuck Sam Burns, and then you're back up to 7,400, and then you get Jordan Spieth. So the two Americans that you have are not great because one of them isn't playing in round one, and then Burns is playing with Scheffler against Jon Rahm. There is no Jon Rahm on the other side of this. Not that I'm too concerned about that, but if the entire discourse is about maximizing the amount of points that you can get, having guys playing each other on day one literally makes no sense. If that's the only goal that you have. So this maxes everything out, but you could even get trickier in this format. I mentioned Homa as someone that could potentially see a bunch of matches here. Fowler as well. I don't think Fowler is going to be super popular, so you could chuck him in there, and that would give you the ability to get up to, no one on the American side. I don't think I would want to go 5-1 with Euros versus Americans. 4-2 is probably the split that I would want to go to. I wonder if it's possible to try to jam in 3 pairings from the first round just to see what that would end up looking like. I think you would either have to go with Lowry and Straka on your team, which, they might play 1 match, 2 matches on the low end, on the downside of them. Or you just go with Tyrrell Hatton as your captain. Let's throw him in the captain spot here. Throw in Hatton because he's the cheapest of all of these guys. So you go with Hatton and Rahm and start. Then you go with Vic and Aberg again, or you can go with Scheffler and Burns. We'll try. Actually, are they playing each other? Yeah, they're playing each other. So let's not go with them. Let's go Cantlay, Xander. Chuck them in. Now, what are we looking at? 5,900. So you can go with a 3-3 split, try to get some of those. I guess Burns is playing against Hatton and Rahm, so we don't want to do that. If you go with Aberg, you're down at 5,500. So this doesn't really work out all that well with Xander and Cantlay. What if we end up going to, you can just say that, hey, if Spieth and Thomas play well, now this is a way that we can get a little bit different because we know that they're almost guaranteed to play with each other playing with each other in the afternoon. Maybe they're playing with each other in the morning. That's why they're not out on the course. But now we've alleviated a ton of money here. So we could even do something and maybe take your lumps with Burns. Could you get up to, now you're 100 away from going Burns and Scheffler if that's the route that you wanted to go. But you could say that Rahm and Hatton are the team. They were a good team even at Whistling Straits when the Euros got absolutely dummied by the Americans. And I actually think that someone like Morikawa is going to come in slightly underowned, and then you could even get a piece of Aberg if you wanted to. That's tougher. What if we go with Homa instead? Take Homa. Now we have 7,300, and you think that if Fitz plays well enough, or even just go with Ricky, because Homa and Ricky might end up being a team in some of the later sessions if that's the way that you wanted to go. The other way to play this, if you really wanted to get tricky, I think would be going with Wyndham Clark. Does that get you up to Brooks? Oh yeah, get you up to Cantlay if you wanted to do that. I do think that Brooks will be the one that plays with Wyndham Clark, at least in the first afternoon session. I just don't anticipate Wyndham Clark playing a ton. I think it's better off that you try to shake it out a different way, because now we have 4 guys that aren't playing in the morning. That's probably not optimal when we're thinking about it. But I do anticipate some of these guys that are playing in the afternoon and sitting out the first session, if they can get it rolling in the afternoon, to potentially do a little bit more. Like Fitz and Rose generally are anticipated to play with each other, so let's try to throw those 2 in. We'll take out Spieth and Thomas and keep in Hatton and Rahm and see if we can get to Fitz and Rose, and what does that leave us with for some of our other pairings. We have 7,900 remaining for the rest of our players. I think that actually allows us, we don't. Oh no, we can go Morikawa and Homa with that one. See, I don't hate this one. Mainly because, like I said, I think that Morikawa and Homa have the potential to end up playing all 5 sessions, or maybe even 4, potentially even playing together, which would be nice if we're trying to project out the rest of the days. And it does, I don't want to say it's a lock that Fitz plays with Rose in the afternoon, because Rose might play with Rory. That would make sense in 4-ball, and like Fitz could play with Tommy or something like that. Like that's on the table as well. But if they do end up playing together, as long as they don't play Morikawa and Homa, all of a sudden you're looking pretty good, and very few people are going to build their lineups this way. That obviously doesn't make as big of a difference in some of the smaller field tournaments. I mean, we can try to build one of those. We'll try to build, like, you're going to try to build your chalkiest lineup possible. Let's see if we can do that for you, the people out there. I think it's very close to the first lineup that we built. It's Xander, it's Cantlay, it's Scheffler, and it's Burns just because his partner is super cheap. And then it's probably Hatton at 78 and Aberg. Nice. We don't have enough for Aberg. So let's take Hatton out. We'll go with Aberg. And what do we have left here? Fitz Fowler. It could be Fowler thrown in there, or we just go to the lower end and go Lowry and Hatton and then pray that they end up together. Like, I think this is going to be a pretty chalky build. You go 2-2, pit the two teams in the morning, and hopefully you don't get any crossover on anything. Hatton against Lowry, or Hatton against Xander and Cantlay is one that comes up. If you wanted to avoid that, you could take Hatton out, and you could end up going with Morikawa or Homa in that spot if you wanted to. Let's see here. He's playing Lowry, so it probably makes more sense to go with Homa. And then is that enough? 54 up to 61 does not get us to Aberg. If you could find the money to save it with Aberg somewhere else, you could put it on the table. The only reason I like Burns so much is that if he ends up playing well with Scheffler, he just gets to be Scheffler's partner, presumably, for the entire tournament, which would just be a huge boon for him. You basically get all the Scheffler points instead at a much cheaper price. And like that double up, like you can see the price tag on Xander and Cantlay is so damn high. The rent, it's higher than the rent because it's too damn high, that at least this pairing is a bit more manageable when we get down to it. It'd just be like if you did Rahm and Hatton as your 1-2. You go with Rahm, you throw in Hatton as your top guy, and then, you still have the money left over. You do have the two guys facing each other in the first match. However, you can get away with it as long as they don't play each other in any of the other matches. Again, it's not optimal, but in smaller field tournaments, you don't need to be as crazy rather than navigating the field of 25,000 people in the big $25 tournament. Now, in my tournament, it's 2,000 people playing in it, so you need to be like slightly off kilter, but you don't need to go balls to the wall crazy at the same time either. So I hope that helped breaking down some of the matchups, where we could be going, the different strategies on DraftKings. So please play in that Listeners League. The link is down in the description. Smash the like and join the Mayo Media newsletter. It's completely free, and the cheat sheet is in there as well. Continue playing on DraftKings, okay? I'll see you next time.